The Tibetan Book of the Dead. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, and I have had, for some reason, I've had in mind to study this book, but I haven't studied this book until now, and I'm not sure why. But I think that it is a profitable study for us, and we're not offering this at this point as a practical, we should do this. What we're doing is together studying and observing. What we're doing is together asking and deciding if this is something that we should look at. And this is the Book of the Dead, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And I'm not going to even try to know how to pronounce all these. But this is Book 1, or the introduction to Book 1. The Shikai Bardo and the Shonyid Bardo. Now, many of you have asked me about how do we know that we can get through after death and not be caught in the soul matrix? This is a book that purports to show us exactly how to do just that. So let us look and study and rightly divide and ask ourselves if this is something that can help us or not. Because it says here that herein lieth the setting face to face to the reality in the intermediate state. The great deliverance by hearing while on the after-death plane, from the profound doctrine of emancipating of the consciousness by meditation upon the peaceful and wrathful deities. So it starts out with obeisances. I would say these are offertory statements to the divine body of truth, the incomprehensible boundless light. I wouldn't have any problem saying to the divine body of truth, the incomprehensible boundless light. I have no problem with that. To the divine body of perfect endowment, the lotus and the peaceful and the wrathful deities. To the lotus-born incarnation, Padmasambhava. Now, I might have a hard time saying that. Or who is the protector of all sentient beings. You could just say, to the protector of all sentient beings. To the divine body of perfect endowment. And just leave it at that. And you could even say to the gurus if you wanted to. Obeisance. The great doctrine of liberation by hearing, which conferreth spiritual freedom on devotees of ordinary wit, while in the intermediate state has three divisions: the preliminaries, the subject matter, and the conclusion. At first, the preliminaries, the guide series for emancipating beings, should be mastered by practice. So we're going to look at this and see what we think. By the guide, the highest intellects ought most certainly to be liberated. But they should not be liberated then, while in the intermediate state of the moments of death. They should practice the transference which giveth automatic liberation by one's merely remembering it. So apparently you can remember this stuff, say it enough so that you remember it, and you don't have to worry about it being said at your moment of death. It's just kind of hardwired. But devotees of ordinary wit ought most certainly to be freed thereby, but they should not be freed while in the intermediate state. During the experience of reality, they should persevere in the listening to this great doctrine by liberation of hearing. So it's not something that you practice or say while you're still alive. Accordingly, the devotee should at first examine the symptoms of death as they gradually appear in his dying body, following self-liberation by observing the characteristics of the symptoms of death. Then, when all symptoms of death are completed, he should apply the transference, which conferreth liberation by merely remembering the process. Seems very interesting to me. If the transference hath been effectually employed, there's no need to read this all. But if the transference has not been effectively employed, or I guess if there's any doubt, this all should be read correctly and distinctly near the dead body. And if for some reason there's no corpse, then the bed or seat to which the deceased had been accustomed to should be occupied by the reader, who ought to expound the power of the truth. Then, summoning the spirit of the deceased, imagine it to be present there listening and read. During this time, no relative or fond mate should be allowed to weep or wail, as such is not good for the deceased. So tell him to shut the hell up. If the body be present just when the expiration has ceased, either a lama, one who's been a guru to the deceased, or a brother in the faith whom the deceased trusted, or a friend whom the deceased had great affection, putting the lips close to the ear of the body without actually touching it, should read this great Tadal. Interesting. Interesting. Now this is the explaining of the Tadal itself. You can get an offering. If you can't get an offering, gather together objects on which you can concentrate your thoughts and mentally create as illimitable an offering as possible in worship. Then they recommend the evoking of the aid of the Buddhas and Basavatas, or whoever they are. After that, the path of good wishes, bringing protection from fear, and the path of good wishes for safety from the dangerous pitfalls, with the root words, are to be read distinctly and with proper intonation. Interesting. So it's a ritual for helping people get from the intermediate state through to their full state. Then this great Tadal is to be read either 7 times or thrice, according to the occasion. The setting face to face of the symptoms of death as they occur during the moments of death. The application of the great vivid reminder, the setting face to face to reality while in the intermediate state, or the closing of the doors of the womb while in the intermediate state when seeking rebirth. Wow, this is deep. So this, I guess, goes on what you're supposed to do. Interesting. So what do you say we read on? Instructions on the symptoms of death are the first stage of the Chikai Bardo, the primary clear light seen at the moment of death. Well, the first is the setting face to face with the clear light during the immediate moments of death. And again, we're not saying that this is right, we're studying this. Here, some there may be who have listened much to religious instructions yet not recognized, and some who through recognizing are nevertheless weak in familiarity. But all classes of individuals who have received the practical teachings will, if this be applied to them, be set face to face with the fundamental clear light. Without any intermediate state, they will obtain the unborn Dharmakaya by the great perpendicular path. So I guess this is something that everybody gets in their system. So then what you have to do is, since everybody gets to this system, then there's this instruction of what they should be, of what should be done after this person dies. So you're going to talk into the ear of the dying one. Turn the dying one on the right side for their lying posture of a lion. The throbbing of arteries on the right and left side of the throat is to be pressed. If the person dying is disposed to sleep, or if the sleeping state advances, that should be arrested, and the arteries pressed gently but firmly. Thereby the vital force will not be able to return from the median nerve and will be sure to pass out through the Brahmic aperture. I don't know how practical this really can be for us. Very, very, I mean, this is all about, I think this is too steeped maybe in the Tibetan. So let's just look at some of the things they're saying. O nobly born, let not your mind be distracted. If it be a brother in the faith or some other person, call him by name, and say thus, O nobly born, that which is called death being come to thee now, resolve thus, O this now is the hour of death. By taking advantage of this death, I will so act, for the good of all sentient beings, peopling the illimitable expanse of the heavens, so as to obtain the perfect Buddhahood by resolving on love and compassion towards them, and by directing my entire effort towards the soul perfection. So I guess, I mean, we could really, think, and we could contextualize this within our understandings, and I think we could say, "Oh, Jeff," I don't want to use my own name in this, but "O nobly born, that which is called death being come to thee now, be of this mind. This is the hour of your death. Take advantage of it and act for the good of thyself and all sentient beings, resolving on love and compassion, and by directing your effort to perfection." I could live with that. That seems helpful. And when you shape the thoughts thus, especially at this time, that can be realized for the benefit of all sentient beings, know that when you're in that state, that thou should obtain the best boon of the state of the great symbol. Anyway, even if I cannot realize it, yet will I know, mastering the great body of union, will appear in whatever shape and for whatever beings. I will serve all sentient beings, infinite number as the limits of the sky. Keeping yourself unseparated from this resolution, you should try to remember whatever devotional practices that you are accustomed to performing during your lifetime. In saying this, the reader will put his lips close to the ear and repeat it distinctly, clearly impressing it upon the dying person, so as to prevent his mind from wandering even for a moment. So this is helpful. This is how we should deal with someone who's dying in our presence. I'm not so sure about this, but "O nobly born, you are now experiencing the radiance of the clear light of pure reality. Recognize it. Your present intellect, in real nature void, not formed into anything as regards characteristic or color, namely, the very reality of the all-good." You are now experiencing the out-of-body state of your pure reality. Recognize it. Your present intellect, gone from this world, can be formed into the reality of the all-good. Your own intellect, which is no longer in this body, is now entering into another place, but being as the intellect itself, it's unobstructed, it's shining, it's thrilling, it's blissful. It is the very consciousness of the Almighty. Your own consciousness, not formed into anything, in reality void. Well, I don't like that. Your own consciousness is now not limited by anything, and it is shining and blissful. And this shining and blissful are inseparable. It is the union in the perfect enlightenment. I mean, part of this, it seems like it could be It seems like it could be at least partially practical for us. Your own consciousness is inseparable from the great body of all. It has no birth nor death. Knowing this is enough. Recognizing, we probably need to rewrite this out of the Tibetan ideal into our own ideal. This is enough. Knowing this is enough. Recognizing that you're no longer in the body, but you're going close to the gods. Knowing it's your time, keep yourself in the divine mind of the inexpressible ones. Repeat this distinctly and clearly 3 or even 7 times. That will recall to the mind of the dying person the former setting face to face by the Guru. Secondly, it will cause the naked consciousness to be recognized. Thirdly, recognizing one's own self will allow you to become, see, I don't like this whole being perfectly united with the Dharmakaya, because I don't know what that stuff is. Interesting. And it says, according to good or bad karma, the vital force flows down into either the left or right nerve and goes out through any of the apertures of the body. And then you will get a lucid condition of the mind. I think that's probably true. You will get a lucid condition of the mind. To say that the state endures for a time period, Interesting. So directions are to be applied during this time of death to help the person move across. Very interesting. O thou of noble birth, meditate upon thine own deity. Here the deity's name is to be mentioned by the reader. I wonder if this goes back to your ancestral homeland. O thou of noble birth, meditate upon thy deity Danu, if we're talking about an Irish person. Don't be distracted. Concentrate your mind upon Danu. Meditate upon her as if she were the reflection of the moon and water, apparently yet in existence. Meditate upon her as if she were a physical body. So they're focusing your mind. I don't know if I want to go back to Danu, though. Interesting. Meditate upon the great divine. Being set face to face, expect to recognize the divine. Persons who were living, who had been face to face with a guru, have not yet made themselves familiar with it. This is interesting. Wow. Very, very interesting. So that's kind of the first part of, so there's these mantras that you teach yourself to prepare yourself for passing over. This is actually really good stuff, really interesting stuff, and it seems to be maybe even really powerful stuff. I think we'll have to do some adapting of it to fit our own situations, but it's fascinating to ponder. The Tibetan Book of the Dead. This ebook was downloaded from holybooks.com, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Visit holybooks.com for more similar books. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, or the Afterlife Experiences on the Bardo Plain. English translation by Lama Kazi Dawa Samdup. Compiled and edited by W.Y. Evans Wentz. And I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. Wow. Interesting stuff. I think we'll go through this, and then if we find it to be of value to us, we'll go back and we'll, together, maybe in live, we will rewrite it and adapt it towards someone of our Western idealism, right? Or someone of our Western mindset, so they can help us. It seems interesting. I like the idea that you're preparing yourself, and that it puts you in a place of being able to have confidence in your post-physical life. Very interesting. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. This is some of our speculative late night, 1:30 in the morning, August 1st, reading of the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I'll be back tomorrow with another great day of study and enlightenment, or at least suggestions of enlightenment to you. And until then, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, saying, unwind your mind, unindoctrinate yourself, and be excellent to each other.